No, you
locally.
Yes, you have a two-tier industry
Right now, yes.
So you must recognize the fact that you have a two-tier industry.
Yeah.
But at the end,
Nollywood hasn't quite
it
died.
hasn't quite died out.
It's still.
But the only the alternative to that your old Nollywood is new Nollywood. And new Nollywood, part of it is actually what you are trying to conceptualize as corporate. It's simply one small part of it.
Today, I have with me two very important film scholars, but specifically very important authorities on African cinema. Again, more specifically, I would say arguably the best authorities on Nigerian films, popularly known as Nollywood.
My name is Hyginus Ekwuazi. I'm a professor of broadcasting and film. I was the founding director of the National Film Institute in Jos. Subsequent to that, I became the DG of the Nigerian Film Corporation, and I have taught film ever since.
As part of my introduction, I wish to let you know that you're listening to two generations of film scholars. I studied under Professor Ekwuazi here at the Department of Theatre Arts, University of Ibadan. He supervised both my MA and my PhD thesis in this department. My name is Onookome, Okome. I'm currently professor of film and of African cinema at the University of Alberta, Canada.
Thank you very much. I would like to start with you, sir.
Sure.
As at the time you started, because I remember in my discussion with Professor Okome, we're talking about how it was your intervention that made it possible for him to do his PhD dissertation on film, on Nollywood, so to speak. So as at the time you started your scholarship in that area, so not many studies, on Nigerian film.
There were actually no studies at that time, virtually no studies.
Virtually no studies.
Yeah,
so then what was the motivation?
It wasn't that so much was happening around. And then you saw this new way, this new cultural expression. And then you felt actually you would want to study it. I think it was the curiosity more than anything. And then you had people who queued into that curiosity, like Professor Adedeji, who said, why not?
Why not?
And so that was it. Because if Professor Adedeji had discouraged me, that would have been it. So that is it.
Yeah. So again, given the fact
and
that
so when he now came up,
I
was already there. So when he came up, I was actually, by the way, that's the best PhD I supervised up to date.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was my first and best PhD. So when he came up, it was more like validating the way you had gone, and then came up with an exciting area and so on. And then the thing caught on. So that is that.
And I remember you telling me that there were a lot of discouragement from others. So why did you insist?
Actually, go on.
Because he was there. Because he was there to guide me through how to insist. and because he was there. And don't forget, this department used to be a very traditional theater department.
Yes.
Yeah.
The university itself is very colonial in many respects, right? So it was not unexpected that there were some kind of resistance, right? Yeah. But I should also correct an impression. My PhD was not on Nollywood.
Okay.
My PhD was on the transition from popular Yoruba cinema to popular Yoruba theater to popular Yoruba cinema.
Yeah.
But it was a logical progression because at that time the Yoruba theater directors also moved into
film.
film
celluloid.
on solid. No, from celluloid
Yeah.
to video.
To video.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they also, in fact, Kenneth Nebwe, Ajeni Yami
Yeah.
was a production with one of the theater companies, but on video.
On video.
Because at this time there was already this problem about insecurity in Lagos and the environment. So all they did was to shoot the plays and then sold to their audiences.
Which kind of now? Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it was a cinema, and but then that was a logical beginning to the current Nollywood.
Yes.
Because when you look
Precisely,
at the history,
it was just that the name Nollywood wasn't there.
Wasn't
But
there.
it was actually the Nigerian cinema.
Yes.
And when you talk of Nollywood, really, it's not like Athena that it was just fully born like that.
No.
It was Nigerian cinema that became Christian Nollywood, and now New Nollywood.
New Nollywood.
So
and
it's
now
like
corporate Nollywood.
corporate.
I remember telling someone.
Yeah, or Netflix Nollywood.
Which is actually part of the New Nollywood.
Yes, but
because when you are dealing with Netflix Nollywood, you're actually looking at this thing for transmission.
Yes.
You're actually looking at what
it's for
yes, which is actually one of the characteristic of New Nollywood.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's also right to call it corporate Nollywood.
Yeah.
Why would you call it corporate?
No, some people call it corporate Nollywood because
what makes it corporate?
It's been corporatized.
No, but I'm coming. When you say corporatized now, because for me, cinema is actually the destination is the audience.
Yeah.
Is it corporate in terms of audience or is it corporate in terms of production something?
No, it's corporate in terms of organization of of transmission.
No. What it is really, you are talking of the economic practice of the film. What has happened is that it has simply become a global practice. So that, yes, it has become a global practice in terms of the monetization, in terms of the budgeting, in terms of the marketing, everything has gone corporate, not corporate, don't get me into that. No. Everything has gone global. It becomes global best practices.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at global best practices and you choose to call it corporate,
I see a reason why they want to call it corporate. You know,
what would be the reason?
One reason is simply that the organizational structure is no longer local. It's now global.
Give me a break.
And
Prof, before it became that, you see, the moment you use Nollywood to rebase the economy, it meant it had gone your so-called corporate. The moment you captured it in the tax basket, it meant you had structured it. It meant it was no longer formal. It was now a very formal industry. Yeah, so is that what you are calling corporate?
Yeah,
you will run out of names.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I, because I think in our discussion when you mentioned it, and I've had cause to ask questions about that, and one of
I didn't mention corporate though in our discussion. What I did was to say Netflix Nollywood. Yes,
it can't even be Netflix Nollywood. You see, because what happens really, you see, the film drops down after it has gone to the cinema. We'll call it dropping down. Because the first place, yes, Netflix will sponsor its own. But primarily what defines New Nollywood is that it goes to the cinema. Then after it has run through the cinema, it drops on the screening platforms. You know?
Which is normal practice.
Yes. No, but why it made, which is what it has become.
Because it normally goes to the cinema.
So that's what I'm trying to say. It's a global practice. It's international best practices. It cannot be corporate.
Yeah. My take on that, again, especially with the context, within the local context, where even now there's still some practices that are not even up to the formal one we mentioned.
No, because you see what
produce film
locally.
Yes, you have a two-tier industry
right now. Yes,
so you must recognize the fact that you have a two-tier industry.
Yeah,
but
Nollywood hasn't quite died
out.
It's still.
But the only alternative to your old Nollywood is New Nollywood, and New Nollywood, part of it is actually what you are trying to conceptualize as corporate. It's simply one small part of it. The larger part of it is that you are dealing with international best practices in terms of monetary, in terms of marketing, in terms of budgeting, in terms of ROI. Everything is now driven, from an international perspective.
Perhaps the best way.
It doesn't make it.
Perhaps the
corporate.
best way to put this is simply
Yeah.
that Netflix Nollywood is an integral part of new Nollywood.
Yes, but
So what happens with Netflix Nollywood is simply these are the kinds of new Nollywood sponsored by.
Prof, why would you even want to call it Netflix Nollywood?
Because
maybe I do have a problem about labels.
Levels, okay.
Which
No,
you even
okay, let
find
me
there-
answer that. Let me answer
which
that.
you even find in Nigerian literature.
Yeah.
When they are talking of first generation, second generation, I say, we are not going to stop. When we begin,
No,
I'm
no,
coming.
but
So there's a problem with labels. If we begin to understand the mainstream, that this is mainstream,
Yeah.
and this is this, we stop attaching these labels.
Mm.
When you say Netflix Nollywood, you know, you mean that actually there is a platform. It goes to that platform.
Mhm.
Every film in New Nollywood, ultimately. But if you are talking that it is Netflix that sponsors
No,
it,
there are certain films
that have
sponsored by Netflix.
Have you checked their sponsorship pattern?
No, but
It won't be
let
Netflix
me make a
alone.
point here.
Yeah.
The Netflix Nollywood,
Yeah.
the reason why they are considered Netflix, and some people want to make a point about being Netflix, is that the sponsors influence the
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, and they insist on certain
They
things.
insist on
Look,
certain
guys,
things.
look,
Yes.
guys,
So
come.
that's the
Go
reason
and
why.
study the pattern.
Mm.
You'll find that even if it is Netflix, there are other ancillary sponsors. Please go and check. Bring me up any film and say Netflix is the sole sponsor of this film. You won't get it. Because the marketing is dynamic.
Yeah, but
The main
Netflix.
funding, I'm coming. What this new thing has provided, it has provided international funding in terms of international linkages.
Mm.
And Netflix could just be one of them or the main one. If the consumer goods market is actually the main driver of what you have in New Nollywood.
That's true, but there
So
are
will you then call them the consumer goods market something?
No, but there
so
are
when you give it a name like that and say it's Netflix something, it goes beyond Netflix. And the New Nollywood is driven by films, primarily by films that may not even have got to Netflix, but they did go to other what do you call them, other channels,
platforms. Yeah.
other platforms. No,
The
it
points
won't
I'm
go.
making about the Netflix Nollywood is simply that the argument that one of my students actually put up is
Okay.
Netflix Nollywood is often conditioned by certain artistic parameters as well as aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
And that will be a good reason to say this kind of film.
Prof, give me anything that will make it different from the films of the New Nollywood period. When you take a film and call it Netflix,
Okay,
film,
I'll give you.
just give me anything that makes it
Okay,
different.
let me give you the example of, say,
Yeah.
October 1.
Okay,
Okay,
October 1.
October 1 is, for instance, clearly New Nollywood, right? October 1 doesn't play into this idea of everything about Africa has to go to the rural area where there's a juju man or there's this.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't, right? So it's a forward-looking kind of film.
Yeah.
But Netflix film that is sponsor, they often insist on those kinds of images.
No, Prof. If you are talking give me an example. Name one film. Because you see, if you tell me of the film,
I'm trying to think about
an
example to give
I know
to
where
you.
you're coming from, Prof.
Yeah.
If you tell me of what this TV what's this TV station? What's this our TV song? No, not NTA. Where Africa Magic. Africa Magic sponsors the kind of film you are talking of.
Yes.
It is not Netflix. That's why I'm coming. That's why
Africa Magic does that.
It's Africa Magic. Africa Magic has a format. I've seen the format.
I just read an interview.
I have thought in their thing. So they do have a format they give you. This number of settings.
Yes, they do.
Oh yes, they do.
Yes.
So they will give you this and give you this. So that is where that thing you are saying obtains. Not in Netflix films. Because Netflix is actually working to international, is driven by, with the new, let's name the new Nollywood films I have in mind. If you take like Sugar Rush, if you take like Jennifer.
Jennifer.
If you take, there are many of them. If you take Chief Daddy, is it Chief
Okay,
Daddy?
yeah, I think.
If you take, these are all new Nollywood films that dropped on Netflix. All of them.
No, but
All
there are
of them
certain films. No,
that
I agree
Netflix-
with you.
There are
But
films
there are
that
certain films that Netflix will sponsor.
But I'm telling you, there's nothing different from those films Netflix will sponsor from the new Nollywood films. There's no difference.
Well, I mean, I think one of the I remember interviewing one important filmmaker
Yeah.
who said something about the Netflix sponsored films.
Yeah.
And one of the points he made is that these people insist. In fact, it was a critique.
Okay.
Because what he said is that, well, they encourage you to produce certain things that show a lot of culture.
Exactly.
But that is when this
Yes.
cultural stuff are
That's
transferred
true.
into the outer world,
Yeah.
into the Western world. So what the Western world wants to see is that these cultural things now they use this. It becomes part of the stereotype.
Yeah.
So they want you to
No,
leave the
but
stereotype.
no, you see, but that their own insistence is totally different from what is happening with African magic.
Okay.
Because polygamy is in the modern setting. And if I show polygamy, it is the kind of thing Netflix will demand. It's not juju based.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, their insistence on culture is totally different from what you have in African magic.
Well,
Because you can talk of the urban culture.
Yeah, we're just
African.
splitting hairs.
There's a difference between the Nigerian urban culture and the Ghanaian urban culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they insist on that, it does make a lot of sense. Whether it makes sense or not, you can see where it's coming from. But it's totally different from what these other guys are doing in terms of culture that is going back.
Yes.
No,
yes.
no. There is no difference between the Netflix films and the new Nollywood films, except in the sense of sponsorship pattern.
And the sophistication in terms of the modernization.
But that sophistication is there in new Nollywood. That's why I say, give me title.
Yeah.
If we talk, let us.
No,
use
in terms
titles.
of sophistication, it is because both films are made for international
audiences. They are all blockbusters.
But I still insist that there are certain things in the sponsored Netflix films that pander to the stereotype that we talk about.
Yeah, because someone mentioned.
Yeah.
No, but I want an evidence. This thing we are doing is evidential.
Yeah.
Tell me that this is it.
Yeah.
Polygamy.
I have caused
polygamy.
I have cause to look at new Nollywood films. Somebody working on it gave me her thesis and I read, and that made me curious. So I have looked at this. I'm trying to say really, because it's simply one of this thing it drops. Because the primary destination when new Nollywood started is actually the cinema. And of course, this thing you will sign with the cinema means you can only run after some time before you and you are not even going to the video yet. You are simply going to these what do they call platforms. Okay, each platform will insist on certain things, but honestly, go and look at those things. They won't be different from the new Nollywood films.
That's interesting. But I want to ask a question.
Yes.
What of Amazon? Are they?
No, they are part of it. Amazon Prime and the rest.
Amazon Prime, they're all part of it.
They are all part of it. Euroko, these are all part. They are all the same platforms.
So is Euroko that corporate? Because a lot of people mention it as a big player too.
It is for locally.
But locally, Euroko used to be, but now with Amazon Prime and Netflix, Euroko is dropped in rating.
Euroko covers more like the nation's.
But you see, if you want to see early films, early Nollywood films, the so-called old Nollywood, it's Euroko TV. They have all.
That's why I say they cover the nation.
They cover the whole thing.
Prof, you see, the thing about Nollywood is the way labels and names spring up.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we are still studying the same phenomenon.
Yeah. But then
so maybe that's why I'm a bit.
I understand what you're saying, but then there's a way. There's something that I'm curious about too, because labeling, labeling for labeling's sake may not be the best.
Yeah.
But then even in Western literature, you have
the
label
classics.
too.
Yes.
No.
Because that thing.
I'm coming.
Like we study Achebe.
Yes.
The work of Achebe. I teach African literature, and we study the works of Achebe.
No, when you label,
nobody calls them classical literature.
Prof, when you label,
yes,
there is a word I'm trying to think. When I face the camera, I lose my, there's a word they call it, and I'm trying to remember it, where you are beginning to pick the elemental characteristics, those things, the elementals in them. When you label and you are bringing out those elements. that without this, it
that
is not
defines the
that is where I quarrel with labels.
For me too, I don't think we would.
Yeah,
because
that's where
periodization.
I'm talking about periodization. Good, yeah.
That in this
literature. Oh, great.
We have
yes. So we have it at this period, this can, this
Yeah,
one, yes,
these
but
are the
otherwise, no. Because it's there in Nollywood studies. Suddenly the names just spring up.
Yeah.
And they are saying essentially, so why are you bringing this name?
Why are you labeling them?
Yes.
Isolating characteristics.
Oh,
Nollywood
yeah.
studies.
Yeah.
How vast it is, what are the things that defines it? Because I had cause to ask this question. I was speaking with a professor, and I said, okay, so how do you? And then fortunately, I mean, you teach Nollywood, in North America. So how do you teach them like the way you teach film studies of other culture, of Western film studies? So what are the yardsticks? And this is the question that I had in mind when coming to you, sir. And what are the characteristics? Are there theories in place?
Indigenous
theories that can be used, or are they being formulated simply because
he will answer it. Because
and there's something you said which I really, again, I've listened to our interviews, which caught my attention, which I feel, I mean, it made, for me, I don't know, maybe we'll expatiate on that today, because the judge, it's like African film is being judged, and then the world, I mean, the world views are different. There are a lot of things that are different, but the standard measure of
Western,
critiquing, appreciating works from other clime, they're used for African culture. So are there indigenous theories? Are there
bodies of theories
that can be used, or are we formulating, or are there efforts towards that?
First of all, I like to dispense with the word indigenous.
Okay.
Because it
comes, theory is theory, right?
No, not because of that. Because it comes with colonial baggage in many parts. In North America, for instance, to say somebody's indigenous, it's like to say somebody's a bushman.
Yeah, it's an aboriginal.
It's an aboriginal. So if we say local aesthetics to judge of local criticism, a body of work is beginning to emerge that will perhaps someday soon concretize into a way of reading these films, right? But certainly what I teach my students is that you suspend your idea of French African film as the African film. Suspend it. Because these guys are the first people on this continent to make film completely without depending on any external force or funding, right? So dispense with that. So you have to take into consideration when you're critiquing these films, production style. Okay? Why is the production shoddy in most cases?
Is it shoddy or unusual?
Unusual, rather. That's the word, unusual.
Yeah.
Why are people always talking?
which is a very important thing. Yeah.
Why are they always talking when they should be acting?
Yeah.
Why do the frames last longer on the screen? No, those are the things that I teach the students. I say, look, this is the way they talk in real life. This is so it is not the fast-paced cut, not Hollywood fast. Yeah. If you bring that aesthetics into reading these films, you miss the point. And I said, so that's the reason why the films are very popular in Africa, not just in Nigeria, in Africa. Right?
Even the idea of close-up,
the
calibration,
it's
culturally,
and then
the idea of cutting people. I mean, have a very big close-up.
And then the idea of pacing the film slower than the normal film. So aesthetically, then you need to bring all of this together and then formulate something. It hasn't quite gotten to that point yet. Because I think that one reason why it was short-circuited was because of, again, let me use the word, this corporatization of Nollywood. So now we are seeing something close to middle-class melodramas from the West. Try some kind of imitation close to that when they get into the international circuit. Right? Because they are no longer made for Nigerians by Nigerians. They are now made for the outside world by Nigerians. who want to key into that international market, which is a good thing. I don't have anything against that.
No, because primarily is the audience you are dealing with.
Exactly.
Because even Samben did the same thing. If you are producing for a purely Western market, you go with the Western aesthetic.
You have to.
And then who in Nigeria is producing for the purely local market?
Not anymore.
Good.
That's the problem. So all these things about new Nollywood, corporate Nollywood, they're no longer producing for the Nigerian market.
Yeah, they are not. You know?
Especially the TV series, all this TV series, you just find sometimes you are even annoyed, right?
And what do we teach in the film schools? We don't teach a traditional way of making film.
No,
we teach the institutionalized way, which is
Hollywood
of making film,
or European film,
or the European film. But you know another thing, there is no Nigerian university where you teach film studies.
Which is really terrible.
I want anybody to
terrible. No, that's not.
No, what we teach is production, because I converted all my courses to production courses.
Yeah.
I started it because the students, if you want to teach, what will they do with it? Let's be honest. At Pan Atlantic, the Lagos, the PAU, I designed the film course there for the masters, and I was asked to come and run it. And somebody comes in, a young person comes in, and is going to pay 5 million naira to take out a master's in film production. Are you going to teach the person film studies? What is he going to do?
But what I did at the University of Calabar was actually to teach film studies. No, I had plenty of opposition.
At the end of the day,
no, but it was
the students.
No, but it was under the Department of Theatre Arts.
But even so, that's what I did here.
I did film studies for them myself.
I changed it here. Apart from those early sets, I taught them film studies. I started teaching production because that's what the student will use out there.
Yes.
And then if you find the NUC syllabus today, I happen to have designed the syllabus for BA film and BSc film and multimedia, which are the only two things Nigeria now teaches in film. There's no film studies. So when you talk of getting a theory or a body of theory, nobody is in haste to do that. But what you have said actually is the practice. That you use this Western canon and indigenize the Western canon, you know, to critique the films the students have made. Not that you are teaching film studies.